Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 219, written by Dr. Marvel 4. Code red on the toilet, and a girlfriend not where she's supposed to be. Last night I was sitting in the toilet, minding my own business. More on that later. After I took care of business, I got up to go check the front door. I opened it and no one was there. I then looked behind me and saw my girlfriend. I was shocked and asked her how long she had been there. She asked me if I'm pranking her, because in her perspective, she was at my place since last night. We talked about it and she is serious. I have no idea what to think of it, guys. Maybe it's because when I was doing my business in the bathroom, I was zoning out and had a fever kind of dream of a ghost entering my body and filling my chest with heat, which really freaked me out. I then had a serious case of code red in the toilet, which occupied my mind but for a moment. I was diagnosed with a crap disease a couple years ago, but never had such experiences until yesterday. Has anyone had similar experiences? Case file number 220, written by Koala Sheep. Her ring was out for a night on the town. The only explanation. I had the strangest experience with my nose ring a few months back that I still, to this day, cannot explain. It might not be crazy interesting and it's a bit long-winded, but I have no logical answer. To preface this story, my job doesn't allow us to wear jewelry during shifts, so for a while I was wearing a wonky nose hoop that didn't fully shut, which made it easier to take off before shifts each day. I had lost it a few times while sleeping, but always found it next to me within seconds. One morning I woke up and felt that my nose ring was missing, so I pawed around as usual until I could feel it. However, this time, it wasn't there. After sweeping my arm multiple times under my pillow and nearby blankets, with no success, I decided to open my eyes and actually start ripping the bed apart. My partner, who was heading out, wished me luck as she couldn't continue to help. I threw off the pillows, pulled back the covers, still nothing. I even stood up and flicked up each blanket layer, shaking each one at a time, patting them down, expecting to hear a clunk as the piercing hit the floor. But again, nothing. After moving the bed frame, sweeping the entire room, which was quite small, really enough for a queen mattress and a few longboards, I returned empty-handed. I ended up rebuilding the room, moved the frame back, put on each sheet, pillows, etc., until the room looked exactly as it had, but still no nose ring. I was really frustrated after spending an hour to no avail and called my partner to let her know it was gone. She found it just as strange as I did, but suggested grabbing a box from the closet that might have an old nose hoop until we could buy a new one. After we hung up and I had grabbed the box from the closet, I turned around to sit on the bed and stopped dead in my tracks. The stupid nose ring was back, right on top of the crease-free top sheet, dead center of the bed, and shining in the sun. My nose ring was back. There was no way I could have missed it, and no way it could have even gotten there on its own after I rebuilt the bed. It was as if someone had placed it perfectly on top to taunt me after watching me search for it relentlessly. I swear, it must have teleported for an hour or glitched somewhere else during that time. It genuinely creeped me out, and when I told my partner, she couldn't think of a possible explanation either. I've never had an issue since, but I'll never forget how genuinely perplexed I was. Case notes, file number 220. Man, disappearing objects are starting to drive me mad now. The only glitch I've experienced, as many know, and now I'm sitting here furious that I've lost yet another tennis ball. Just in my room, tossing it around, fumbled, heard it hit the floor, and then I look around everywhere and nope, it's just vanished from existence. At least your object came back. What's with me and tennis balls that vanish and never return? I feel so unloved. Just come back to me. If you're enjoying this video, consider giving it a like. Now on to the next story. Case file number 221, written by RLYoshi. A true, unparalleled horror story. Wasted pizza. The other day, I brought a plate of pizza to my desk. I set it down, then went to grab something else, and suddenly heard a slight splatting sound. I turned back around and saw one slice of pizza was now on the floor, crust side down, thankfully. Thing is, I did not come into contact with the plate or pizza when turning, so I couldn't have knocked it off. The plate was also fully on the desk, not hanging over the edge, so it couldn't have fallen off on its own. And there was no wind or anything of the sort. My pizza just ended up on the floor in a way that would be totally normal if not for the fact that there was no way it could have gotten off the plate under the circumstances. Bonus file, written by JXTPE. Scavenging for food turned nightmarish. This takes place around 2 months after the last incident with the showers. It was the first Christmas holiday, and most boys were packing up to spend 2 weeks at home with their parents. My parents had already written to me and said they were too busy for me to come home, so I would be spending the holiday here. I have to admit I was disappointed, but I did as I was told. All of the friends I had made left for holiday, so I was pretty lonely, but I was enjoying some rest time. For those of you who don't know how most boarding schools in Britain work, we had a 6-day week. We had normal lessons all day from Monday through Saturday, and on Sunday, we had to attend a church service for the first half of the day, meaning we only got one afternoon off to rest in the week. So, I spent most of the time I was allowed in bed reading books. The weird things were more prominent when it was the holidays. It was as if whatever energies were there became braver when there were less people around. In my schoolhouse, around 2.5 dozen boys, but only 4 had stayed for the holiday. Only 1 was the same age as me, and none had stayed from my dorm room. Which I have to admit, I was thrilled about. Well, I was at first anyways. The first couple or so nights went fine. I was doing my 13-year-old boy thing, and I won't go into any more detail about that. But after the first days of peace, the weird things started again. At first, it wasn't anything major. Echoes of screams and moans coming from the courtyard, but I rationalized it as older boys playing pranks. But in truth, it did scare me. But I didn't want to appear weak or fall into their prank, so I slept through my fears and didn't ask any of the other boys to come and sleep in my dorm with me. So I slept, and when I woke, every other bed in my dorm, apart from mine, had been moved to the far side of the dorm. Which thoroughly freaked me out, but again, I assumed it was a prank from some of the older boys. And if it's one thing I had learnt by this point, if you're being pranked or joked on in any way, show no weakness or it will keep happening. I moved all the beds back myself and went down for a shower. When I got down there was another boy already in the shower room. I can't remember exactly how old he was, but he was in the older years, so probably around 15 or 16. For this story, I'll name him Toby. By this point, I was used to showering with others, so I didn't care that he was there at all. He told me his plan for sneaking down at night and breaking in to the dessert kitchen and having a midnight feast. He asked if I wanted to join him, and though I had never done anything against the rules before, he assured me that he had done it loads of times and had never been caught, so I reluctantly agreed. Later that day, I got ready in a suit of all black to be able to sneak around more effectively. Toby was just wearing his normal clothes and looked at me like I was a huge nerd when I explained my reasoning for my clothes. And so, we started sneaking down to the kitchen. When we got there, we started eating as much ice cream as we could, when suddenly a whole shelf of tin food threw itself onto the floor and the kitchen doors slammed themselves shut. I looked at Toby in a, what do we do kind of way. We picked up food and left almost as quickly as we came. Toby and I started walking back towards our schoolhouse. This is the bit that still gives me the chills. We heard footsteps coming up the hall on the way back. We assumed this would be a teacher, but we found somewhere to hide until they passed. But no one came, and we carried on walking back towards our dorm. This is when I felt something grab my leg and yank it. I got back up. We looked around us and there was no one around. We started running because we were both freaked out when something yanked Toby's leg too. He fell, and he fell way worse than I did and banged the front of his head, and it gave him a bloody nose. He got back up relatively quickly. He was a rugby boy and was used to this kind of thing. By this point, we were sprinting full speed back to our schoolhouse. We got back, and we swore we wouldn't speak of what happened again, out of fear of getting in trouble. I went to my dorm and tried to sleep, but I was just too terrified of what just happened. After a couple hours of just laying, I managed to get some sleep. I woke up at some point in the night to my bed along with the others in my dorm being slammed into the far side of the room with force. At this point, I was completely over having my dorm room. I got up and went into Toby's dorm. I explained what happened in my dorm to someone I thought would understand me. He told me he knew what I was talking about and told me to make a bed in his dorm, and I slept in there for the rest of the holiday. On the plus side, Toby looked out for me during the time he was at the school, and we still keep in touch even now.